Hi, this is Robin Moyer, and some of you listened to my video recently on my personal experience with COVID-19, and I wanted to now do a video from a metaphysical standpoint because that one was from a very human, physical perspective of what I went through. It was the story of what I went through with the COVID-19 and just it was some very human experiences and emotions that I had during that experience. And it's, I don't know, maybe day 40 now for me since I first had the symptoms of the virus. So anyway, so this video is going to be really the learnings that I had from a metaphysical standpoint about it. So many of you know that I have a spiritual practice, that I am a quantum spiritual life coach and hypnotherapist, and that I do intuitive readings and intuitive guidance and individual and group coaching. And also Stargate experience. I do meditations with my friend, and we do monthly, 2 times a month, we do Stargate experience. So, from a spiritual standpoint, I really have an ongoing practice that allows me to stay in a very connected place to my superconsciousness and to the quantum field, pretty much as part of my everyday life. I really make it a ongoing practice, and I'm very blessed and very lucky that I don't have to take the time necessarily to sit down and meditate each day, or separate from other things that I'm doing in my life to now have this spiritual side of myself, because I've been able to integrate those two things, my work and my spiritual practice, together. And so it's just a way of life for me. And it's a way of life that is changing, just like for all of us. And it's a way of life that that I have done a lot of work over the past 3 or 4 years of really going inside myself, into my inner child, and looking at what are core beliefs that I've had that I really am ready to release, so that more things can come through for me, so that more guidance come through for me more easily from my guides, so that I can hear my intuition more clearly. And I have been in a spiritual practice since I was very, very young. So all of my life, really, I have been very connected to the divine. But you know, there was a lot of baggage in there that really needed to be transformed, and it still does. It's an ongoing process, you know. And every client that I have, it's just as they are healing things in themselves and as things are being revealed for them, of course it's a learning lesson for me as well, and it's aha moments for me as well. And so I'm really lucky about that too. So I had an intuition and guidance from my guides before this whole virus started, to begin to work with a small group of people. And what I got as the guidance was that we were going to be moving in this year, in 2020, we were going to really be moving into some powerful things. And that it was going to be very important that we be prepared, that we be prepared to really be walking that that dual line between what we are physically doing and what our third dimensional body is doing, and at the same time very aware of what our where we are in the quantum field, and where we are with our awareness of things. And so we're, you know, walking side by side doing the things we're doing on a daily basis, but doing them with a very strong awareness and intuition of the present moment, of our intuition, of synchronicities that are happening, of what guides are saying. And so what I was guided to do is to work with people on the tips and tricks that I've learned of how to do that more easily, and also how to connect to my guides, and to help people to practice that for whatever it was that was going to be coming. And I have to say that when I first got this message, it came in the way that that Spirit was pushing me into situations where it would give me information, and then I didn't know who it was for, and then all of a sudden that person would show up. And so it was like this blind faith, again, that what I was hearing, that it was for either me, which I could tell the difference between whether it was a message for me or for someone else. And of course, it's always a message for you as well. But, but when it was specifically for someone else, I could tell it was for someone else, and having the faith to just wait and let that be revealed of who it was for. And I was also having situations where usually I would have clients coming, and I would have some idea of what I was going to work with them on, and then I would go from there and just use my intuition and my knowing and what was revealed from them in guide me as to what we did together. But this was very different. This was like somebody shows up and it's like, you're on. I mean, it's like total not knowing what this person was going to be discussing, what they were going to be needing. And so Spirit was really guiding me into trusting that wholeheartedly. And so when this message came in for me to have these small groups to do this work, the message again was not to plan it, not to do like the way I'd always done things, which was, organize a workshop and, and have some kind of ahead of time direction that we were going to go. They were really saying to me, nope, just do it. Just be there and it will come through. And what I found was I would get some downloads a couple of days before, and I would write down the downloads that I was getting, and inevitably somebody in the group would ask a question that had already been answered in the download. Or I'd be there in the middle of it, and and of course some new information would come through that was appropriate for the moment. Or I'd be in the shower that morning and it would be like, this is what you need to talk about today. And so that was really an interesting process for me, and not really knowing like what is it they were doing this for. So so when this whole COVID-19 thing came about, and we were all in this situation where it was obvious that there was more going on than just a virus, that on a metaphysical or spiritual standpoint, that there is a huge awakening, a huge shift going on for all of us that we are a part of. And we had heard stories about how all of our old systems are going to break down, and it's a time to be collectively developing what we want the world to look like in the future, and what we want ourselves, our own consciousness, to look like in the future. So we were all aware of that, but when this actually happened, and I have to say that, I think it was so amazingly, divinely orchestrated. I mean, even when I thought of these things happening, I would get ideas about, well, how's this going to come about? Maybe it's an earthquake, maybe it's a volcano or it's erupting, or, how is this all going to come back? But I never really thought of it of something that would globally affect everyone, which it had to be, because it had to be something that would shift the earth, would shift the world globally, and so amazingly orchestrated. And I remember my guides saying at one point to me, they came through and they said, we're not going to save you. There's no one that's coming down to save you, because you don't need saving. And they said that you collectively created this absolutely beautifully, because how often did all of you say, things have got to change. We really want a new way of relating to each other. We really want a new way of our world looking. We really want a new way to intensify our love for each other. And all these things that they said, how often have you said, we want this and we want that? And in it, setting our intentions for a mechanism to make that happen. So they said, so you did a beautiful job at that, because this is the mechanism by which that can happen. And so they said, so we totally, thoroughly trust that you're going to be able to create on the other side of this what it is, and in the midst of it, what it is that you want as well. So, so I thought that was pretty cool. But so anyway, so when this all unfolded, it was like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing that we all heard the calling, that not just me, but the people that decided to participate in these groups that I had, these small groups, who were willing to go into some really very deep, things for themselves, that they heard the calling for it too. And the reason I say that also, besides them just saying yes to my offer about it, is at the same time as I was hearing I really needed to do this, there were people who were asking me, I really need you to do this. And so that's when I decided, okay, obviously this is, being called to me. So it's like, so when all this started happening, it was like, how beautiful that we all heard that calling to be more prepared for this event that's happening, to be already in that space of a daily practice, so that we could move through this with that daily practice. So, so the other thing that was going on for me was that a month before this all happened, I was saying to friends and saying to myself, I really need to hibernate. That was the word I used. I really need to go into hibernation, because I'm just doing too much. I'm doing too much. It's overwhelming me. I need some more space. And so, what better way for me to manifest, being the master manifester that we all are, manifest total hibernation by having to quarantine myself for 30 days. I mean, it's like I got my hibernation for sure, and it did, because I'm able to see it from that perspective of why I got sick. One of the reasons being that I had asked for total hibernation. I had asked for relief from the busy schedule that I created for myself. And the interesting part about it was that as I was asking every day for my schedule to clear up, and I specifically said, in March, I want to be in hibernation. And here I'm watching as my schedule every day is getting filled. And I literally said, how am I going to take this hibernation in March when my schedule is like full again for March? And well, so what happened? I had to cancel everything when March came, because I got sick and because we couldn't meet face to face, and all of my business before then was face to face. It was not over Zoom. So so that was one reason. the other reason that I feel like I got the virus was that there was a disconnect between my physical body, my spiritual body, and my mental body. I am very in tune with my mental and my spiritual body. I've cultivated it, I practice it, and I have to say that, I've had a disrespect for my physical body. And a lot of it is working through that inner child stuff that needs to change and, in relation to my physical body. But I really wanted to bring my physical body and my activity level, my physical activity level, into harmony with the spiritual and mental things I was doing. But I was just having such a hard time of getting motivated to do it. I just could not seem to get myself going. Well, so as a result of having this virus, I had no appetite. I absolutely had no appetite. And so it was the jump start that I needed to get myself like eating properly. And I just immediately started, I went off sugar, I went off carbs, I went off dairy, and I was just, eating fruits, vegetables, and and protein, and I even limited my coffee at the time. And so, I've added some of those things in light measure back in, not the sugar, but some of those things in light measure back in. But it was the jump start I needed to really get on a very good, plan of eating. And then, and then some exercise too, because being in the house and, and being able to walk around the block once I was able to get up and do that. But having videos right there to do things online just made it, easier for me to do that. The interesting thing about this process is that when I first started getting sick, I was still in the same mode. I was still in the same mental state where it was like I felt all this guilt. I felt guilt for having to cancel every one of my clients. I felt guilt for like just asking for help from anybody. I felt, guilt that I was going to something else with my schedule now that I'm thinking of, but I can't think of it at the moment. Anyway, it was like all the old stories came in about like, no, you have to be doing these things, and you're not productive if you're not doing these things, and you can't let go of it even though you're getting super sick. And because I got so sick, it forced me into having to do that and being okay with letting go. And so the lesson for me has really been, when we do get back into that place of being able to see each other again and have schedules and, and all of that, we have a choice. Do we want to go back to, well, we're never going to be able to go back to the way things were. But we have a choice of, do we want to go back to like our life and our way of perceiving things and our way of doing things, the norm for us? Or do we want to use this opportunity to say, what have I really enjoyed about this space that we've had? And what do I want to keep? What parts do I want to keep? What do I want to make as part of this new earth, this new reality that I want in the future? And so for me, it's like, it really is saying, I don't need to be sick in order to take time when I need it, to rest when I need it. I don't need to be guilty if I ask for help, or, if I can't do the things that I should be doing, and that's a challenge for me because I have been a very um, tending to lean towards divine masculine person rather than divine feminine person. And I'm learning to embrace my divine feminine, my being instead of doing. And of course, that is a huge part of this whole thing, is this bringing in of the divine feminine that is all about holding, creating, holding, resting, nurturing, evaluating, in between the action and the doing and the um, changing and all those things that are beautiful parts of the divine masculine, that is an out of control divine masculine. So I'm really bringing in that aspect of myself with these changes that I've gone through this process. And so that's, for me personally, I wanted to share with you my idea of why I got this, why I got the virus, because there is the part of us that if we keep ourselves in all those places healthy, if we keep ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually healthy, then these things should I don't even want to use the word should, but we have a better chance of not getting sick, um, unless there are spiritual reasons why we have brought this. Again, I say we are master manifestors, and I can totally see why I manifested this. So yeah, I definitely probably had a weakened immune system because of that. I haven't been focusing on my physical part of me, but at the same time, I see from a spiritual part, why this is happening for me personally. But so let me talk about collectively now. Um, so collectively, I talked about this a little bit, that we did ask for this. We didn't ask for these specifics, just in the same way that we don't ask for things that look really terrible in our lives to happen. So on a third dimensional perspective, of course we didn't ask for a virus. And of course we didn't ask for, like, to get hurt by somebody, or any of those things from a third dimensional perspective when you look at it from that angle. What we ask for is for the higher purpose in it. What is the higher learning in it that our soul is really trying to get? That our soul is really trying to help us to understand. And today, in my daily meditations that I've been doing, I pulled the card. It was actually higher purpose card. And the meditation was really about looking at our higher purpose in our being here and what we are really trying to accomplish. But, one of the things that I didn't touch on in that meditation that is just coming to me now is that it's always a process of looking at the situations that are around us and saying, what is the higher learning in this? What is the higher purpose? What is trying to be created here? What do we have the opportunity to create here from this situation? And we can see some of the beautiful things that are being created from this situation. I mean, we can see how, we are at some level becoming so much more closer to some of our friends, because we have really time to dedicate to being very present with them when we do talk to them or we do chat with them visually. It's like we are giving it that time that is needed, um, and we are having the opportunity to really go in more and do reflection as we're home alone. So many more people have the opportunity now to really go in and reflect upon things. And, even those people who are not spiritually minded or really are in a mode of this is driving them crazy and this is challenging and this is fearful and all of those things. Everybody, I think, is going through a sort of dark night of the soul. You know, we're all going through our version of that, of whatever that is and how that is showing up for us. Because even the people that are going through those things, and I have to say, I don't care how spiritual you are, quote spiritual, because we're all spiritual beings. We're all the same spiritual being, you know, we're all on a higher level. We're all complete, you know. So there isn't like this ranking of spirituality, you know. But those of us that are more conscious in this lifetime about that practice, you know, are seeing some of the higher purposes for this more easily. Um, but those people who are really immersed in it may not be. But even for those of us that do see the higher purposes, I know for a fact from the people that I've been working with that, you know, we're going through a cycle where there's days of grief, there's days of sadness, there's days of anger, there's days of disbelief, there's days of blame, all those things that are part of the grief cycle, you know, that are going on for every single person. And there's times where, you know, you're going along just fine and you're really tuning in and you're doing your daily practice and you're doing things that you haven't done before. There's so many people baking. What's with the baking? You know, and doing artistic things and all this creative stuff. And then you hit like this wall. Like, you know, for me, it's like about 5 days. I go through like 4 days of feeling totally like, you know, in harmony. And then it's like day 5, I have this kind of angst that comes up or freak out that comes up, you know, about like, oh, whatever it is, you know, whatever it is, just a, you know, isolation or just, you know, just kind of crazy thoughts or, you know, whatever it is. I'm not doing enough kinds of things. And then I'm fine again. So I know we're all going through a cycle of that. And being able to look at that and really, you know, just be, first of all, just being really loving with ourselves in relation to that, being okay with all of that, okay with every part of that, is really where it's at. And observing it and saying, how do I want to move past this? What would I like to create out of this? And is, you know, the beautiful opportunity that we have in this. And so, of course, this is bigger than all of us because it's not only a result of the collective of us and our collective desire for something grander, something greater, but it's even bigger than that because we're as creative beings, we're always creating. So it's not like it's stagnant. So it's bigger than what we even can imagine it to be. And where we're going to end up is bigger than where we imagine because we can't imagine it. We can't imagine it. Even like the guides that work with us say, you know, we can't even tell you what's going to happen because we're creating with you. We are in this process with you, and it's not set. It's not stagnant, and so, you know, so we're all doing this together, right? So, so that's kind of my metaphysical take on it. And if you haven't listened to my physical take on it, if you haven't listened to my third dimensional, very human take on it, that there is a YouTube video on that as well. So where you pull this one up, you can actually go to my library there and pull up that one too if you'd like and listen to it. And or you can contact me and I can actually give you that as well, the link to it. But anyway, I wanted to share this with you, my metaphysical take on this, and there's so much more I could say about it. I mean, huge amount. But anyway, that's kind of the beginning of it. So be well and enjoy this time that we have to do some really amazing things. And I hope you're with me in just the magic of what we're really creating. We're creating something new that's going to be, um, you know, what we've been asking for. And so let's enjoy it. So thank you. Bye.